Welcome to Flex That Worx, a podcast for anyone building, managing, or growing a flexible workspace without making things more complicated than they need to be. If you're running a single co-working space, juggling multiple locations, or overseeing a growing network of spaces across towns or cities, this is your space. It's for the operators, the managers, decision makers, the people doing the work to make these places run. This is Flex That Worx, scaling your workspace, made simpler and less stressful. See you in the episode. Anne-Marie, delighted to have you joining us today. You're up in Inishowen, County Donegal.
Yeah, we're almost as far as you can go.
And I'm almost down as far south as you can go. Do you want to give us a little bit of background about Inishowen Innovation?
We are based in Buncrana in County Donegal, which is on the Inishowen Peninsula. We are very close to the most northerly point. Buncrana is the biggest town in Inishowen, and the hub was established here essentially to increase the amount of innovation in the whole peninsula. So we're serving not just the town that we're in, but the whole of the peninsula, which actually has a population of around 40,000 people.
Wow.
So, and just geographically, it's slightly removed from sort of the center of Donegal and very close to Derry. A lot of people would consider it kind of a suburb of Derry as well. So that's where we are. And the hub was established with funding from Enterprise Ireland and Donegal County Council to sort of provide a space for new companies to have somewhere to go to get signposted for whatever help and support they needed, to basically be a focal point for the ecosystem for people who are working for themselves, for the small businesses and medium-sized businesses that are already in Inishowen, and for anyone considering taking that step, as well as supporting remote workers wherever they may be working from.
And you spent many years in the US, right?
I did, yes. So I'm a native of this area. I grew up here, then went to college, and then went off to the US unplanned to stay as long as I did. I went for a year or so, see how it goes, and ended up spending 20 years there. Came back in 2016, which was actually supposed to be just for a 1 year solid time with the family kind of thing. Yeah. But that's how it works. I go somewhere for a year and end up staying there for 20, and then I come back home for a year and end up staying. So when I came back, I worked in software in Florida, a medical software company, mostly in product and project management type roles. So after deciding we were staying back home, went looking for roles in that kind of area, ended up working on European projects, which were really interesting because we were completely, for a couple of different projects at any given time, working on completely different things. A lot of them were on digital transformation and some on sustainability as well. So very interesting, different kind of roles. And then that somewhat led into this position of manager of the Innovation Hub, because the organization I was working with at the time was heavily involved in getting this hub established. So then I took over from the initial manager of the hub. And so I was here from the time when we had a temporary space because this building was a construction site to where we are now, about a year and a half into operations.
Wow.
One of the really interesting things was because it was coming right out of COVID as well. So I had been working from home for 2.5 years and went from that kind of a role where I was sitting in a corner of a room doing video calls with people wherever they were in the world, and then having a very interactive face-to-face type role when I got involved in trying to get getting the building finished and doing the fixtures and fittings and all of that, and dealing with the people that were, installing the broadband and the audiovisual equipment and everything else, as well at the same time while trying to get introduced to the remote workers and the existing businesses that are in the area as well, to start working with them. So yeah, it's been very interesting. Yeah.
Because it really strikes me like nobody, puts on the CEO now to be a hub manager. Nobody kind of, that's not a role that anybody has seen done and sets out to become as such. So
yeah,
everyone in those roles has a whole other background, a whole other lived, and then you're kind of thrown into this space and you need to find the best way to do this job you're in. So many stakeholders, so many people who you're trying to keep happy, trying to keep this running efficiently in the day-to-day, trying to still spot opportunity and be out in the world and be keeping the place visible. It's loads of moving parts.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of my favorite sayings, and I won't get into where it all came from, but it's like, there's just too many variables. There's a lot of variables
Yeah.
involved. And that summary just there of keeping the place running day to day, engaging with the people that are coming in the door, but also keeping in mind the needing to have the interaction with the existing businesses, plus getting the word out there to let people know what we're doing in all different areas. So there is a very big range of stakeholders involved in the project, not to mention, the board of management that's actually running it and those types of stakeholders. We're very lucky though, before I got involved, there was a really good advisory board established to help with the hub. So we have a group that's made up of representatives from Enterprise Ireland, IDA, the local enterprise office, ATU Donegal that's in Letterkenny, Ulster University that's in Derry, the Donegal ETB, plus some of the bigger businesses around as well. So we have input from all of those people, and for anything that's going on or any help that I need, I have an individual person within each of those organizations that I can go directly to, which is really helpful. So that helps with a lot of areas. But then, as you said, there's a lot of on the job learning with how to establish connections with people, talking to businesses who may have no interest whatsoever in an innovation hub and have no idea how it could in any way impact their work or their lives, and trying to sort of establish those relationships so that we can make sure that we're there and accessible and have enough information about their business to be able to connect them with someone else that they may be able to work with, or put them in touch with some of the funding sources or mentorship or something that they can work with a university on to bring in research students or something like that. So sort of learning all of those different ways to connect with all those different types of people. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What has your experience been like around kind of uptake? So, getting, I suppose, bums on seats in one way because you want to see your space busy. What's worked well for you in terms of kind of getting people in the door?
So we've done all kinds of things. We've done all of the sort of promotions online. We've done open days, open weeks, even all of those sort of, for want of a better word, sort of gimmicks to try to get people in the door. But really, word of mouth is the most important thing. And it's funny, I've been telling people that story lately that I had a hard time understanding, there was sort of a little bit of that, if you build it, they will come sort of thinking behind the thing, that if it's here, then people are going to start using it. It doesn't work that way, really. And so I was sort of questioning why it was that people might be reluctant to come in to use the hub, and then happened to be having a conversation with someone about a pub that's in our town that I've never been in, because I felt like somebody would have to bring me to that pub and sort of introduce me to it, and suddenly realized, oh, it's the same kind of thing here. People know this place exists. They might not think that's not really for me, or that's not the kind of place that I would go to. So they sort of almost need to be brought in, either by someone they know or someone who's used it can tell them about it. Or the other thing as well is we try to put on events that will, attract all kinds of people for all kinds of different reasons, that will introduce them to being in the building, which then, and generally once people come in once, that's it. They become regulars. They come back in again. But that getting people across the threshold in the first place it's an interesting one. And I think we still have some work to do on our very local promotion and marketing as well, to make sure that people are aware of what the hub is and what it offers.
Brilliant. Is there any particular profile of person or business who you feel the space really gels with and they just get it?
Yeah, we have quite a few what we call our hybrid members. So people who pay a monthly fee and they come in a couple of days a week. The majority of them work for themselves, and they're working in all kinds of different fields. So some are very technology focused, some are video production, there's an artist who comes here. So she works in a print studio and does classes, makes things that she's selling online. So she has 2 days a week where she comes into the hub, and that's where she does her online promotion and her admin and all of that sort of thing. And then we have people who are working for software companies who are just working remotely. So they come in off, either off their own bat that they're paying for themselves to come in, or their organization is paying for them to use the facilities because they know it's somewhere that they have a professional setup, they have solid connection, somewhere they know they're going to be able to work. So there's kind of two groups. There's the individual working for themselves in whatever area, and then a smaller group then of remote workers who are either coming in themselves or the organization is sending them in.
And as somebody kind of curating the space and looking for people to come in, what's your attitude towards who would be new to the space and joining? Is it important for you that people gel? Is it more important for you that the space is kind of productive for people to come in and get work done? What type of audience are you looking to attract? Or is that something that you think a lot about? Are you just happy for anyone who would find the space beneficial to come in the door?
What we're offering basically is professional workspace where people can come in and get work done. And I think especially for people who work for themselves or work remotely fully, it can be very isolating. And so having a place that you can come to work. And as I say to people, you can come in, sit at your desk, get your work done, go home, and you've got a beginning and an end to your workday. Or you can come in and interact with people as much or as little as you want, so that you're getting that social interaction as well. But as far as kind of getting people talking to each other and gelling, I mean, that's a big part of it as well, because we have examples already of people who work for themselves, who've connected with someone else from being in the hub, who are now working on projects together. So as well as the sort of formalized events that we do, you know, we've had talks on AI and XR, and then we have the business support type of events where we have financial workshop a couple of weeks ago. We've got a HR seminar coming up in the next couple of weeks, but we also have once a month, we have just a social meetup after hours from 5 to 7, 7:30-ish for anyone to come in, whether they're a current member or not, to just come in, have a chat. We'll usually have somebody either telling a startup story or something, but it's very casual, very informal, and just a way for people to connect with people they might not see on the days that they come into the hub. So it's a lot about that balance. We want to attract people for a certain, because we want to help people who are starting their own businesses or thinking about doing that. But we also want to make it a space for people who just happen to be working remotely are comfortable coming in as well.
What kind of numbers are you at in the 18 months that you've been open? What kind of stages have you gone through? Where do you feel like you are now in your growth journey?
Well, we're ahead of schedule as far as occupancy in terms of office space occupancy and our hybrid membership. That's another one of those sort of balances, because we have one organization taking up more space than we probably would consider ideal, considering that, you know, our main mission is get people in, providing the services they need to start their business or grow their business, so that they would take office space and then eventually grow and move on. So a lot of that space is being taken by one organization right now. But again, that's the balance. It's nice to have that stability because it allows us to do other things, but it also means we have less space available if we have somebody who needs a small office. So we are ahead of where we thought we would be. We still have lots of work to do on attracting more in the hot desk area and hybrid and all that. So we're doing pretty well in our first year and a half, but I still have conversations with people who say, oh, I didn't know this place existed. So there's still that. We still have to do that. And our particular building as well, the way it's structured, so it's an old building that was renovated and a big extension put onto it. They see the front of the building and it looks like it just got facelift. It just got painted and they don't realize what's behind it and what's here. So there's a bit of that sort of the physical part of it as well that we need to work on as well to make sure that people are aware. But overall, you know, how things are going and how the space is being used and all that, we're doing okay, but definitely still more work to do.
What is next for you?
More events, more activities, more, I think, again, as I said, the different types of events to introduce people to the space so that they know what's going on. I mean, we have over the next 3 weeks, I believe we've got 5 different events happening. They will focus on different types of audiences as well to bring more different people in. So we're continuing to add more opportunities for people to come in for different reasons. We've started getting more organizations coming in to use meeting space as well. So we're expanding that opportunity a bit more as well to make sure that people are aware that there is somewhere that's a more of a sort of a professional work setting that they can have those types of meetings so that they don't need to go to. But in our area, the alternative to that would be going to a hotel to book a room. So yeah, it's a different kind of space.
Very different kind of space. And particularly, it just really opens up the option of having those kind of in-between meetings, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They're really powerful connector points for small businesses, but oftentimes we skip them because we feel like, oh no, it has to be a big meeting to take hotel space or something out. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, someone that I was just speaking with this morning, who is looking at the potential for office space or possibly a couple of desks for people. But in the meantime, what he was interested in was the possibility that if they had people out, visiting clients and moving around, that there's somewhere that they could come in, even if it was just for a couple of hours during the day, book in, use the desk, and they've got a professional space to work in between meetings. And when they need to get people together, there's a place that they can come. And what he mentioned as well was that so we had this meeting set up from a couple of days ago that he wanted to come in and see the space. But last night he happened upon the Connected Hubs website because he's got people working around the county. He was trying to come up with, well, if I've got someone over here, where can I place them to work? And then he found the Connected Hubs website. And this is it. This solves all my problems because I can see what spaces are available whenever we happen to need them. So he was very happy about that, and it was great, to hear that resource is there and available.
Yeah, fantastic. And to have the option to go ahead, he could have booked there and then last night if he wanted to and had the whole thing done.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you find is the most common kind of booking practice when somebody is new to the space? Is there kind of a process that you guide people through, or has that kind of naturally evolved?
It's interesting that it's still evolving for sure. And obviously this being the week after a holiday, there are extra people around who, people who are home and need to have a space to work. Quite often people would call and just ask a few questions before taking the step to book online. More and more now I'm getting bookings from people that I haven't heard from before, that they're starting to feel more comfortable. I think, we've been around a bit longer, they've seen more of the, online content, and they've maybe talked to somebody. So people seem to be more comfortable now with just going straight ahead into the booking rather than making that call to make it a bit more comfortable before they actually make the commitment.
Yes. And how does that feel for you as a hub manager?
Well, it lightens the load slightly in terms of talk.
Rather than a tour.
Yeah, it never fails to bring something new whenever you do have that conversation with someone. And that to me is the most important piece of my role, is to try to make those connections with people and make people feel more comfortable about coming in and what the options might be when they get here and the people that they might be able to meet and all of that sort of thing. So whether they just make a booking, come in, do their work and leave again, if that's what they want to do, perfectly fine. But if they're looking for a bit more or want to make some more connections, that option's there. And I think that's a big part of the role as well.
Absolutely. And you being present, because so much work is remote. And as you mentioned, people being at home, there's that element of loneliness and things, but really need those connectors in life, like you being present to say, oh, have you spoken to, X
exactly
at the desk across? Oftentimes you won't interrupt somebody else if they're in the flow of work at another desk and you're new in a space. The chances of you striking up conversation with everyone in the room throughout the day is fairly slim. So the hub manager being there and having the capacity to kind of have those conversations is actually a really powerful part of the day for a person. If they're only in for one day, especially, that's like such a missed opportunity if you're buried in paperwork and you're not available to do that,
Absolutely. Yeah. I did a webinar at one point, and someone referred to the role as being serendipity engineering is what hub managers do. Yeah. Which I thought was great. Yeah.
That's really
so
good.
It's like you might have a chance meeting and then you have a hub manager who might somewhat sort of engineer that chance
Nothing
meeting
chance about
to
it.
some degree. Yeah. Well, it's like we had an example of this, was months ago. This is in the pretty early days. Someone who was coming in regularly was applying for funding from the local enterprise office. And so he was filling in his form and he had a question. So he asked me the question. I said, well, I can give you my thinking on how that should be answered, but I haven't actually gone through this process. But hold on a minute. I think Sean might have done that. And Sean was literally at a desk 6 feet away. But then they had said, hello, how's it going? How are you doing? But that was it. So then when I have you done this before? Could you chat to him? And they had this conversation, and then they ended up starting to talk about the technology. They're both doing completely different things, but using the same type of technology. So that led to another conversation and something else. But that initial connection may have happened at some point, but it could have been weeks or months. And that specific question then got answered that day, and he was able to move on. So it is an interesting thing. And then because those people as well might never be in on the same day as well. So the fact that I've met them and I know them individually means that I can, again, sort of somewhat engineer those connections.
Absolutely. And like, say in the 18 months since you've been working with the II, you've set up, you've been scaling.
Mhm.
To that end, what has been the role of kind of process and systems? You came from many years in project management, corporate, med device side. I'm sure you had no shortage of waterfall methods and all sorts of systems at play there. So when you were starting with the II, what was your approach to technology, to tools that would support the team? You probably wanted to keep things a little bit lean,
Absolutely.
but at the same time be efficient when you've got a limited
Mhm.
headcount. So how did you approach it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came my last few years in that other role, I was a big agile advocate. So lean and agile and all that those were a big part of my life. So and basically when it came into this role, because there's so many different facets to it, whenever it can automate any type of process, that's where we want to go. That's what we need to be doing. And so we were working with Baseworks for the booking engine right from the start. And that has sort of grown and evolved as we've gone along as well. It started off with just, having the facility for people to be able to book a hot desk. And then we added the hybrid option so that people could pay on a recurring basis and come in a couple of days a week. And then we added in the couple of different virtual. We started off with one virtual membership option. We've expanded that now to 3 options. So as things have grown and evolved, and the people that we're dealing with has changed as time has gone on, we've been able to sort of use the platform to adapt and make changes based on the people that we're actually interacting with, which has been great. And I have to say as well that having been involved with Baseworks since the beginning, the support and responsiveness has been fabulous, because there would often be, because sort of coming in and like, I'd like to be able to do this. Is this an option? Can we do that? And if it isn't an option, it generally will become an option fairly soon. So that has been not having to have those type of interactions and do a manual process with people. First of all, getting the information on how to book and going through that process has been huge. So specifically with the interaction for payments and for access to the building, because we have an access system that's integrated. So having all of that work together has been a huge help, because I'm on my own. As you said earlier, the day-to-day practicalities of the building, plus interacting with people, plus all the other stuff that's supposed to be happening, the sort of strategic stuff in the background, whatever can be automated and work together seamlessly has a huge impact, and yeah, really makes a big difference.
And how do you feel in terms of, say, future planning? Is there a view to scale probably the capacity? Like, so you mentioned about that you have one particular client with you for a period of time, but is there scope for another space somewhere outside Buncrana, or are you very much in the mindset of get this space doing the most? Would you reconfigure how the space is being used? What are you seeing from the 18 months, and what does the next kind of 18 months look like, or maybe further afield?
Yeah, I think from the sort of funding management perspective, we're like, let's just stick with what we've got for now and use it to the best that we can. But actually, we just had a board meeting just a couple of days ago, and a big part of the conversation then was, what do we need to do to potentially reconfigure things? Because we have limited office space, permanent desk space available to offer at the moment, and we're getting more and more requests for that. And so we're making the decision right now on whether to basically separate some of our current hot desk space and make that more permanent. As things progress and as we figure out who our clientele are basically and our members, we are going to have to adapt and the build. And to be fair to the people who designed the building as well, they designed it in a way to intentionally allow that to be an option, that you could change the configuration if it was needed.
And what will be the role of systems and technology in that?
Well, I think, and we're not probably using the technology to its fullest at the moment. We probably would be adding more of the options to manage the permanent desks and small offices that are currently sort of being handled on a one-on-one manual basis. So we'll be adding that in to make sure that that's all streamlined and automated as much as possible.
And when you were going into your board meetings, is there a role for the tech in terms of visibility on your numbers, your analytics, your reporting, when you're having those conversations with stakeholders? Is Baseworks something that you find supportive in those settings?
It is, yeah, absolutely. Because that's what makes sense to them. They're not here on a daily basis. They're not interacting with the people that are coming and going. So they need facts and figures and things that make sense. Yeah, we have reporting that we pull out from, who's coming, what type of client, what type of clients we have, what the numbers are looking like. I use that as well to be able to sort of explain to them as far as the hot desk is concerned, that I discovered I kept looking for a pattern for the user pattern, and there really isn't one. Because you could say Fridays are generally kind of quiet, but then you have some crazy busy Fridays, and it's just it's there doesn't seem to really be a pattern to it, which is maybe a good thing. It might make things easier from management if there were, but I don't think there is. But again, that's probably part of our sort of growing and people getting to know what the space is and all that as well. That people are coming going sort of randomly, but that's part of how it works.
Yes, because when volume comes, it unlocks a whole other kind of scope and capability. There's more you can learn, there's more you can do with that information, but you have to be managing the members you have really well to get to that scale, right?
We're in the position right now where we have more hybrid members than we have desks available for. So in the unlikely event that all of our hybrid members decided to come in the same day, we would have too many people for the desks that we have. That hasn't happened. I don't foresee it happening in the very near future. Right now, if you're a hybrid member, you pay your monthly fee, you come in whatever 2 days a week work for you. At some point, we're going to have to manage that to make sure that we have desks available for whoever wants to come in. So that will be another level of the software helping to manage that, because on a practical level, that would be very hard to maintain and manage. So yeah.
It's ready, Anne-Marie. It's there.
Good to know.
That's the piece of BaseWorks. They get it in day one. Start day one, and it will grow with you, because you're never too small to be efficient.
Absolutely. Even, we were using BaseWorks when we were still in our temporary location that had 8 desks before we moved into our building. And it was literally just hot desking for those 8 desks. And we were using BaseWorks at that point because it just made sense. So our use of the software has grown and expanded as we've grown and expanded. And as things change and evolve, that's the goal, is that we'll keep using it, and as different functionality is added, we'll be able to jump into that as well.
That's it. You're like a perfect example of a space using BaseWorks. It's like who it was built for, because obviously the guys who built it, Graham and Keith, were running co-working spaces themselves. So they built it exactly with a small space in mind that's starting out, or scaling up to multiple locations. They have such a good sense of the requirements at the different stages. It's like everything you need, but nothing you don't need.
Yeah, there you go. And if there is functionality there that you don't need, it doesn't impact what you're doing. So
yes, it's not in your way. Yeah, exactly. Ideal. I'd love to know, if you were speaking to yourself 18 months ago, starting out, and you were to be giving her some tips on what was to come next, or any recommendations, what kind of advice would you share?
Probably to talk to more hub managers earlier. Okay. To get different perspectives on what they're doing and how they're working, and how along with technology that they're using in the software, just the processes in general, to get that collaboration as early as possible. I mean, the Connected Hubs did offer that from very early days. And we're also lucky that within Donegal, we have a Donegal Hubs network as well, a smaller group as well, that we can connect with each other. Those interactions are really, really important. And getting to know exactly what the options within the software are from the very beginning as well. Although, we had very good one-on-one discussions with the team at BaseWorks from day one, so that was really helpful. But yeah, it would really just be more about getting real world experience from other people as early as possible.
What would you say, the steepest learning curve, or like the most? Is there anything that stands out to you as kind of a turning point?
Turning point probably would have been the first in-person event that I went to with other hub managers. We have a group of hub managers from the north, northwest, west, that are innovation hubs of all different types. But having that first face-to-face chance to chat with them and find out what they're doing and how they're operating and everything else, I think was a big, it sort of removed that kind of, the isolation we were talking about people working from home, from working remotely. But there was probably a little bit of that, being, the one that's trying to make this thing work, dealing with all the different facets that we talked about before, and getting it established and interacting with all those people. So probably that first connection with other experienced hub managers, and some of them were fairly new as well, but some of them had been in this area for a long time. So getting their perspective and getting that connection with them. And again, it's kind of like the advisory board, where I can go to somebody from Enterprise Ireland or IDA or Leo. With this group as well, I've got someone, I mean, I could reach out and say, I've got an issue with whatever, or does anyone have, I don't know, one of the things that I got from someone was a privacy and security statement. Do you have an example of one of these that I could maybe use to base ours? And 5 minutes later, I have something, and it's, so those, again, it's all about the connections. That's,
Yeah.
you know, with all of this, that's huge. So yeah, there's all the background stuff of how to make things work and make things run a bit more smoothly and have things happen that I don't have to have my hands on. But again, it's the connections and the interactions and all of that that really make it.
And the sense of trust at the end of the day that you can put the hand up, because you know we're only able to get support because we initially put the hand up and admit something we need a bit of help on, and
Yeah,
it's a safe pair of hands there who will give you a solid answer.
absolutely. Yeah,
Because when we're running similar spaces, you don't need to be reinventing the wheel. You know, all of us love to
yeah,
come up with our own processes and systems and be really clever about it, but it's not actually what's going to move the needle for the members, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And that to me is the big thing, that if something already exists, it makes no sense whatsoever to go out and try to create your own version of that especially as a single entity. Like it just doesn't make sense at all. And the thing, as I said, you know, the sort of responsiveness with BaseWorks as well, is that anything that didn't work for us, any questions that I had, or any, you know, possible shifts or tweaks or changes, we've been able to have those conversations as well. So.
Fantastic. And like we've built the system, you know, particularly since you've come on board, one of the elements that we really focus on is the onboarding piece. So because we know that your priority as a hub manager is to run the space. You're not an IT manager, right? So like we haven't built a system that you need to go in and spend a lot of time learning. You know, we want you to get up and running, get a resource up, get your desk up, your office space, whatever it is, get people through, and you kind of learn as you go, you learn on the job.
Yeah.
You know? Like the whole idea with these tools, like for myself in my role, CRM is a big part of it. I learn as I go. I'm happy to do that, but it should immediately be making my day easier. That's kind of
Absolutely.
my acid test for any piece of kit, like any piece of software, anything. Can I immediately get in, get started, and is it straight away making my day easier, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And if you have to read a 10-page manual to get that, it's not going to work.
Not in this day and age. If I don't
No.
have to do it for a food shop on my phone, I'm not going to do it for anything anymore, because tech is just something we have in our day to day. There's no line anymore between tech and home. Sure, there's not. It's just
Yeah.
software that we use in all elements. So we expect that level of kind of experience in every software we use.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same for your members as well. Have you had any feedback from people who book in using BaseWorks?
Yeah, no, it's generally been pretty smooth. There haven't been any issues. Like I said, you still get people occasionally who are like, I just want to just check before I, you know, hit the button sort of thing. But yeah, generally it's been pretty smooth. Yeah.
And have you used it for your events?
Yeah. Put the events on there, put the booking options. Yeah. So we've done that a little bit
That
as
work
well.
for you?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. Well, the thing that I like about it is that once somebody signs up for something, then they're in our system. They're on the mailing list. They're being informed of whatever's going on. So that's helpful too. Yeah.
Brilliant. And it's creating that one home for everything that the IA is running as well, isn't it? Yeah. Your offers are up there along with your events and everything in one
Yeah.
place. So it's really kind of enhancing the brand of the place all the time.
Yeah. It's nice to have sort of a one-stop shop for all of
Fantastic.
that. Yeah.
What would you say is one of the most surprising things about your role with the II? What when you took the job, did you have a sense of what was to come? Maybe
No,
not.
I had no idea. I had no idea. I suppose it was that sort of realizing that kind of transition from, as I said, the job that I was in at the time that lockdown happened. I did the worst possible thing. I set up a desk about 3 feet away from my bed. So I spent 2.5 years basically in one room.
Yeah.
And so I had a video calls with people, but otherwise, I mean, that was it for interaction, really.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah. So going from that to this role, where it's constant interaction with people, whether that's, you know, a full sit down talk about what the opportunities are and whatever else, and setting up events and all that kind of thing, or just the casual people coming in and out the door, how's it going, how are you? Constant interaction has been the biggest thing that I hadn't quite considered, I think, when I took on the role. But it's been great. Having lived away for a really long time, there's pros and cons to that as well, because I don't know all of the politics and stories and all of that kind of thing. So you can sort of let some of that just go over your head. But it's actually been great for me as a way to kind of get to know what's going on and what's happening around as well. And I just, in one of the conversations I had this morning as well, there's a bit of a reticence, I think, maybe more especially here. It's just, this is where I see it with people who are in business. And so there are lots of businesses in Inishowen that are doing really well, but it's kind of hard to tell because they're not shouting about it. There's no parades. There's no look at us and look what we're doing. It's all very sort of quiet. So you have to sort of make those steps and make those connections to find out about all of those things. And that's kind of one of my missions now as well, is that since these people aren't shouting themselves about the accomplishments and the successful business that they have, that maybe that should be part of our job as well, to let people know, because it goes along with the whole, if you can see it, you can be it sort of thing, where if people know that there are successful businesses happening here in a pretty rural location, other people can do it, then maybe I can do it as well. So that's a part that I hadn't really thought about at the beginning as well. So it's, like I said, it's a very interesting role. Definitely.
So powerful. And you're in that unique space that you have that trusted relationship built up where people will share that success. They'll share where their businesses are at. So you've got this single view into different companies. That's a really unique viewpoint that you get to have.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. We're in the middle of all kinds of discussions with different groups. We have a town team that's trying to, help to sort of progress things and make things better in the local area. The possibility of a chamber being set up for the whole peninsula rather than just the town as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on. Yeah.
And would you say, how much of the success in the area would you say the II has had a significant role in, even if in its short time of being set up?
I don't think we can claim a whole lot of credit for the business successes just yet. But the sort of connections between them and sort of getting the message out there that there are opportunities, that there are successful businesses around here, I think that's the bit that we can definitely add to. We are in this sort of agnostic area where we can talk about the successes and talk about where, without advancing one business versus another. We're sort of in that agnostic role where we can, point out successes and let people know all of these good things that are happening, and take that sort of neutral role but help to push things forward at the same time.
It's a very powerful space to be in, and I can imagine that it's something, the role of a hub in a space like that, it's something that's going to compound over time as well, right? In the 18 months, you've made such strides, and you'll see that compound in the months that are coming,
Yeah, there's definitely still a lot to do, a long way ahead. Yeah,
and there's huge rollout from businesses having that level of success as well, right? Even in terms of who moves into an area, and like for people who are deciding where to live, you've got a lot of the younger generation starting their own businesses when they see, if you go online and you're researching where you'd like to move to, if you're moving outside of a major city and you see something, the II available, like it can be a big part of somebody's decision making. I know for me, it was part of wanting to move to a coastal town, having somewhere like this to come to work,
Yeah, but that's the thing. It is the best of both worlds, because we have, and I was actually going to put some pictures up on LinkedIn yesterday of my walk yesterday morning, because it was just gorgeous. We are in a really beautiful area. If people know that they can be successful either in having a place to work or to start their own business in a place where they actually want to live, that's huge.
Game changer. And they know there are other people like them there.
Absolutely.
I'm so established in life now that probably the same as yourself coming home from the US, like you have a good sense of what type of people you need to be around, what type of people you want to work alongside. Life is too short,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Find kind of a hub where I find these hubs like attract people who have similar motivations and similar approaches to supporting each other and everything, so, and having that love for the area that you're in as well, like being so well placed just in life in general, like well suited to building your own career and your own work, because automatically, like there's a group here who go swimming on a Wednesday together. You're like intrinsically linked kind of with the environment that you're in,
Yeah.
Huge to have in common,
Yeah. We did actually have a discussion with a few people around, because there are quite a few people who are members here who don't have any direct connection themselves with this area, but their partner or husband, wife, whoever is from around here, and so they came back from wherever they were to here. So we had talked about setting up a group specifically that was my partner dragged me to Inishowen, but it's okay now.
Involuntary.
As a group. Yeah, yeah. They dragged me here, but it's okay now. But just because we do have a lot of people just within our, our sort of the regulars, our hybrid members, there's a significant proportion of them who are from somewhere else who, if it weren't for a partner, spouse, whoever, wouldn't be here. So they have that in common as well. So there is that too. And again, the other part of it as well is just having a place to go where you're going to meet other people who are, some of whom are in the same situation, some are completely different, but it's a safe space in a sort of professional work-based environment, but it's also a place just to connect with people. Because it can be hard, whether you're coming home or coming to a place that's not your place. It can be hard to make those kinds of connections, especially if you're, in your 30s, 40s, 50s when you do that. Even just for that service alone, I think it's really important.
To that end, we hear a lot about AI. We're hearing a lot about the way the world is changing. What's your take on it in general and from the perspective of the AI?
Probably my take on AI has been steered a little bit by someone who is one of our members who has their own business. They spend a lot of time in Belfast, so not here as much. But this person, so he started off as an intern here, working on a project, but working within the AI in the first couple of months when we were getting things moving. He now has his own successful AI-based business and is doing really well. So my thinking on AI has probably been steered a little bit by him and a little bit by our other members who are using it on a daily basis. We've had them do talks for us on a couple of different occasions. And really the main thing that came out of that for me was, the fear that people have that AI is going to take their jobs should really be more of AI isn't necessarily going to take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI could potentially take your job. So the thing is to learn what it is, what it isn't, how to use it, and how to get what you need from it, and to understand what it can do and what its limitations are. To sort of try to take it from the positive perspective rather than the negative that it's going to change everything. And my thinking on it has been steered by those people who are actually actively using it every day. The guy that I was talking about, he's using it for his business. He started off doing branding for companies, branding and marketing. The tagline that he had was AI generated, human curated, which I thought was really clever. But he has expanded that now based on interactions with different businesses who are basically coming to him and saying, okay, I know I need to know about AI, or I know I should be using it. What can I do with it? So he's now consulting with businesses on how they can best use AI. And even the different times that I've met up with him, that has sort of evolved as well. Because at the beginning he said companies will come to him and say, we should be using, what are we going to use AI for? And he's sort of turned that around and like, well, what do you do? Where do you have issues? What are your processes that you could potentially use AI to, to improve or make more efficient or speed up, or take something that's currently manual and make it more efficient. And then I have someone else who's a regular user as well, who is building curriculum materials for schools and colleges in the US, and they're using AI on a regular basis, but they're using it sort of within an academic setting as well, which brings a different perspective on things too. So I think it's really interesting. I think if you just look at one side of it, it could potentially be really scary for a lot of people. But I think that's why we need to know more about it and educate ourselves and find out as much as we can and learn how to use it so that it isn't this big scary thing that's happening, but something we actually make use of in our day-to-day life.
Absolutely. Embrace it. I'd have to agree. I think embrace it, and by staying up to date with it, it's evolving at such a rate. But if you prioritize staying up to date with it, you're actually tracking the changes and they feel less overwhelming, because each time a release comes now from ChatGPT, I'm thinking, how is this relevant to me? How can this support me? And you start to build the skill set and you start to see really clearly how you can apply it to your own space or your own role. And it's a way more empowering place to approach it from.
I mean, I know that we had, so Liam, who's done these AI talks for us, he came once and did a talk for a group, and then he came back, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks later, and it was amazing. All of the different updates, new pieces of software and upgrades to things that had happened in that short space of time. It is incredibly fast how it's changing and evolving.
Absolutely. I had a friend visit me yesterday. She had her baby with her. Her baby's 4 months old. And she said it's kind of incredible the way her baby will be drawn actually to like devices a little bit more than she has no time on devices, but purely from seeing other people using them. She has her cousins who would be using them around her and things. And we had a conversation about the fact that, you know, at one point in time, we probably felt around parenting and things. And it's a little bit the same with business that we could choose whether to have this type of technology in our lives or not. Whereas I think it's really time to get real about the fact that it's just here, and
Yeah.
it's up to us to really embrace it and decide how we're going to use it. But whether we use it, is that conversation's gone off the table now.
Yeah,
Very much how we
absolutely.
embrace it and how we use it now.
Hmm.
So it's very interesting to me to see how it's going to continue to make the lives of hub managers easier, and see how
Yeah,
brought in, you know, because it's coming through in tools like BaseWorks, and there'll be standalone tools coming in, and then there are brand new tools coming in as well.
hmm
Functionality as possible with the ways that it's developing as well, solving problems that we didn't know we had.
hmm
Fantastic. It's so nice to chat to you, Anne-Marie. How have
No
you found
problem.
roles of, we'll say, funding, profitability of the space, the number side of things? How has that been rolling for you in the 18 months?
We're ahead of where our targets were in terms of sort of being able to keep our head above water, but that is largely based on one particular client, which again, there's a balancing act there. One client using a lot of the space means that we don't have space available for other smaller clients potentially. So there's a bit of balancing to go on there. We're doing okay. We're doing okay. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room. We're doing okay at the moment, and hoping to keep, you know, building on what we have. Again, that's where the sort of the potential for reconfiguring or changing tech a little bit sometimes, that's part of that whole conversation.
Absolutely. It's something I'm always conscious of when I'm chatting with hub managers, that community is a key part of the work that you're doing, but equally profitability and brass tacks is kind of what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely, because you can't sustain the community on promises. Which is, but there is that's another part of that you were asking before about the new skills or the new things that you have to work on that you didn't think you were going to have to do or hadn't considered in advance. And some of that would be getting people to do stuff for free because you need to be able to offer things to the community to bring in. So that's a whole other aspect of it. But at some point, you need to be offering services that are at a, you know, higher level. Then that requires the funding to be able to do that. There's a whole balancing act there as well, for
Do you
sure.
mean members?
We have had members contributing and doing, you know, making presentations and doing all of that, absolutely. But equally, if we want to attract the, you know, existing businesses and others and sort of grow the community, we need to be offering services that need to be paid for somehow, whether that's, you know, through a funding source or through actually, you know, paid for services. So that again, it's part of that whole balance thing again.
Yeah, all has to be considered all the time.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to Flex That Worx. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss our next episode. Connect with us on LinkedIn, watch the full episode on YouTube, and you can explore free tools and resources over at baseworks.co. This is Flex That Worx, powered by BaseWorks, here to help you scale your workspace, making it simpler and less stressful.